This episode is sponsored by the Freedom Builder System. For just $57 a month, you can get my custom Biz Builder AI, plus membership in the Freedom Builder community. Think of it as having me, your personal business coach and corporate escape Sherpa, right in your pocket 24/7. Biz Builder AI is your business building tool with 5 Sherpas in one powerful tool. It's a coach in AI form that helps you choose the right idea, create offers, build your financial runway, and market yourself without the cringe. And the Freedom Builder membership gives you the training, community, and accountability to actually follow through. So you're never doing this alone. Think of it as clarity, tools, and support all in one for less than the cost of a dinner out and a fraction of what you'd spend on private coaching. Check the show notes for the link, and let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to the Gen X Remix, Midlife, Laughs, and Next Acts, the podcast for bold women who are ready to build a business that actually lights you up and escape corporate. Yes, in that order. I'm your host, Tabitha Jones, the Corporate Escape Sherpa, and today we're diving into the real, raw, and sometimes hilarious side of midlife transitions with a woman who's been there, done that, and lived to coach others through it. Our guest today is Amy Stone, endurance athlete, Stepfamily strategist, and the host of the Art of Imperfect Adulting podcast. In this conversation, we're going to talk about reclaiming your identity in midlife. What happens when your personality test suddenly calls you a nurturer? And the joy of finally buying spoons again after 25 years of parenting. If you know, you know. And if you're facing an empty nest, feeling a little lost, or wondering how to even start this next chapter, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. All right, Amy, thank you so much for joining us today on the Gen X Remix.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. Oh my gosh. As you know, I love to hear about your personal remix. So can you tell us a little bit of your remix story as we're getting started?
I sure can. I think that it's a wonderful question. I think that I shared with you when you first asked me this question that by the time you get to our age, I feel that most of us probably have had a couple of remixes. So this was a matter of me picking one, but I picked one that I love to share, which is that several years ago, I think it was about 8 years ago, I was working with somebody on a project and I took a personality quiz. I like personality quizzes. I think they're a lot of fun. But once you've taken one, you tend to get the same result over and over again, depending on where you do. You take this one, you get a similar result, different words on the other one. And I took this personality quiz and it came up with a result that was so far off base that I just thought it was wrong because it was a new quiz. And so what it was that it came back and it said that I was a nurturer. And in every other personality quiz that I'd ever taken in my 20s and my 30s, I had gotten independent, driven, leadership, all of these things. I took a career assessment in middle school. It said I should be a farmer, which is code for entrepreneur. That's what I was expecting. And I got a nurturer. And I just thought it was wrong. But I was in this community of people who were all taking this same quiz. And they were all raving about it. They were like, oh, it's spot on. It's so good. It's perfect. And I was like, what are you talking about? This was not right. So what did I do? You probably wonder. Well, I took it 3 or 4 more times and got the same result over and over again because it's an online thing. It just spits back the result. And I said, what am I doing? And then over the period of a certain amount of time, I was digging deep and asking other people I knew who worked with things like this, can these results change? Like, what is going on? And sure enough, my results had changed because I was answering them with what I was involved in right then in my life. I was I had been completely zoned in on raising all my stepkids and kids and being the person in the house that I was answering the questions in a different way than I would have 15 years before. And so it turned back nurturer because that was what I was doing. That was the focus of the majority of my day. So that's how I answered the question. But it was really jarring for me at the moment because it didn't match with how I saw myself or who I wanted to be, which probably makes me sound like a selfish person, but it wasn't actually in line with how I saw myself. And that was an opportunity then for me to lean into what was going on and why my results showed up as that. And that was the remix.
What a great story. I think as Gen X, often toxic independence is how we describe ourselves, right?
Yes.
So independent. But I love that. And it is interesting how at different times in our lives, we show up a little bit differently, or we start, just kind of evolving. And, especially as a mom and a stepmom,
Right.
And wife, right? That nurturing piece comes into play.
It
So
does. It does. Exactly. We call those seasons, right? We call those the seasons of our life, but that's not always fun. Sometimes you end up in a season that you don't like very much.
Right. It's like that never ending season.
Yes.
So I get it.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So I know that you are coming up on an interesting time where you are about to be an empty nester.
I am.
And as we were preparing for the show, that was part of our conversation as far as so many of us in Gen X were in such different places. Some still have middle schoolers, some might be raising a grandchild, some are becoming grandparents. I've been an empty nester for about 10 years. So what are you doing to prepare for this big empty nest you're about to be in?
A lot of dreaming and scheming. I had the thought the other day that I'm very close to the time where I will be able to buy spoons again. So what do I mean? You may know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean.
I have 2 stepkids and 2 kids, and we have repurchased silverware several times over the years. The last time but we have a set of silverware where you have to rebuy the whole thing to get the spoons. And so we were down, this is the teaspoons, not the other spoons, not the soup spoons and the serving spoons. We bought a whole new set and we doubled up, and then slowly the small spoons began to disappear. And the kids began to refer to us as a bring your own spoon household. Like they would tell their friends, you need to bring your own spoon if you come to our house, which is not really true. We're just using big spoons instead of the small spoons because we're not going to buy a whole other set to get spoons. We're completely out of the small spoons, and we have been for at least a couple of years. And I opened the drawer the other day and I thought, oh, you know what? I could buy more spoons and not be in fear of them walking out of my kitchen again. I don't know where they go. I assume they go into the trash, but it really is a mystery. I'm very excited about that. I'm really, really excited about not being tied to the school calendar as I have been for 25 years. And really excited to be able to say, you know what, I would like to travel this week, and it doesn't have to be spring break. It doesn't have to be on these times. I'm so excited. The joke in our house is we don't know who has worse senioritis, my senior or me. It's probably me. It's almost definitely me.
That is awesome. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine being tied to that school calendar for 25 years. I only had one of my own that was here full time. So we had about, 13 years of school calendars.
Yeah.
But also I was working full time. So I had that going as well. So I can only imagine the freedom you are facing right now and so close. I hear from a lot of moms, especially that are facing that empty nest, those worries and those fears of, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself, or, oh, I'm so sad. I can't believe he's going to leave or she's going to leave. And it's just going to be so hard.
People tell me that.
People tell me that.
Did you go through that?
It's so interesting. I think back and, when my son left, he moved from our city to San Francisco, which is a big city. My husband's like, we're not driving him. We're not moving him. We're going to go rent him a U-Haul. He's a big boy. He's 20, which, hindsight, I'm like, he really wasn't that big of a boy. Right. He's 20. It's time. He wants to go. Let him do it. So he got the U-Haul. We helped him pack it. And when I was waving goodbye to him, we were both bawling. Like Tyler's in the driver's seat bawling. I'm bawling in the driveway. My husband's looking at us like we both lost our minds because he's thinking, oh my gosh, I got my house back and we're going to have leftovers. Right. And, it was funny. So when he first moved, it felt like I needed to text him every day, kind of just check in, make sure he was okay. And then as you adjust, everything sort of settles. And I didn't find myself depressed. I found myself doing other things, right? He was pretty independent anyway, but finding that I had more time to read and I didn't need to, go just drop something to take care of something really fast. And I don't know, I'd say so a couple funny things. The first time we went in the refrigerator like maybe 2 weeks after he moved out. I was like, oh my God. I looked at my husband. I'm like, you got to stop cooking. Like, stop cooking.
Yes.
We can't eat
Yes.
all this food because
That
he
is
and
a
I will
change.
split a steak.
That's right. That is a
Before it
change.
was like
Yeah.
3 steaks. We
Yeah.
don't drink milk. Why are we buying milk? Stop it. Like you have to get that
Good.
adjustment, right? And then when
Yes.
he came home the first time, he'd probably been out of the house 2 months or so. And he came home and he stayed for a long weekend. And I mean, it was okay, when are you leaving?
Yeah.
Because you're so happy to see them. And then you're like, oh, we fell into a new routine and things are a little bit weird now. So, yeah, it's an adjustment. But I don't think I went through that depression that a lot of people say they felt or they went through. And I'm
Yeah.
super close to my son. So,
I
what
don't
are you
think it's
thinking?
related to how close we are. And so, feel free to call me out on this in 6 months if I am
Of
going through a
course.
depression. But this is the fourth of four kids who went through this house to go away. And so there's been different experiences each time. The grocery shopping adjustment is a shocking adjustment every single time, because when you're planning a meal for 6 people is completely different than if you're planning a meal for 3 people or 2 people or even one person. And each time it's an education for me for shopping, and I mess it up for a few months and then I get with the program. But I think that I have done enough of what I've been doing right now to be very excited for the change and really be ready for the next level of the relationship with my children as young adults. And I'm really excited about it. There's that great quote from Mae West, which is like, you only get one life, but if you do it right, that should be enough. And I kind of feel like that works here. It's like, if you spend the 13 years or the 18 years or the 20 years of time with your kids, and you sort of feel like you're pulled in a bunch of different directions, when they leave, you might really kind of be feeling like, oh, wow, I didn't have a chance to do all the things I wanted to do. I am ready for them to fly and here if they need me. Once they do that, because we do have one that flew and came right back home and needed a reset. So that it doesn't always work the first time, right?
Yeah, little
And that's
boomerang.
the boomerang. And so that'll be that. And I am just very excited. I hope that the fourth one launches off to college and has a wonderful experience. This kid that's going to college, he was in middle school when lockdown happened. And so his father started working from home. I always worked from home. This is a kid who has been surrounded by his parents. Think about a middle school kid. What do you not want? Quality time with your parents. This
Right.
poor kid has been home with his parents and his siblings for 7 years. And he deserves a chance to get out there and go and be on his own, even if he totally screws it up. So I'm excited for all of us. I'm excited for a quiet house. I'm excited for shoes to not be piled up by the front door. It doesn't mean I won't miss all of those things. It just means that I'm going to really enjoy not having them as a full-time situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of value behind having a really strong relationship with your kids, but also being able to let them go and be adults and get into the world
Yeah.
without it impacting your confidence or your self-worth. I feel like, and there's, no judgment here. I just see it. A lot of moms are like, oh gosh, what do I do now? And this
Yeah.
is even women that I've known that have had solid careers for a lot of years, women that their career was raising their children or, just any variety. It seems to be out there. And I know that you kind of help women who have been structuring their lives more around their kids for decades. So for those that are going through the hard times and are not as excited about their spoon situation as we were, what advice do you give them to kind of help them just reclaim their identity and start moving forward again?
So there's two things I'll offer. One is I want to be really upfront and cognizant about the fact that as women in the United States, in North America, we are encouraged and praised to judge ourselves and allow ourselves to be judged based on the successes of our children. There's a million opportunities for you to martyr yourself on behalf of your family, and you will constantly get positive reinforcement from the people around you. Your school principal will praise you for being a helicopter parent and being super involved. The sport coach will make you the team mom if you're the person who's crossing all the I's and dotting all the T's, right? It is not something that is easy to avoid. And so that is there. So it's not a failing if you lean into it and you got that, but it does, you then, when that is gone, you are then missing all of that external validation that you have been getting for 20 years based on what the kids are doing. I remember the first time somebody praised me, some of the kids are doing something. One of the kids got into school and people were like, oh, that's so great. Congratulations. You must be so proud. I'm like, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I'm just along for the ride here. This is this child's accomplishment. And that's the thing to look at. So that's one thing. And to see it as external validation is part of the process, to be aware that that's what you're searching for, because that helps you return it. The other thing that I always tell people, because we do call this an awakening or a reclaiming, there's a danger there, right? Because if we try and reclaim who we were when we were 25, it doesn't actually work that way.
That's not going to work well at all.
And that is, you can actually, when you point out that the calendar doesn't roll back like that, you can almost see people having their midlife crisis trying to reclaim who they were as the younger self. Like in American Beauty, the movie where he goes out and buys the same car that he had when he was in high school, and he gets the same job that he had when he was in high school. That wouldn't probably make us happy now. Well, actually, the same car might, right? The same car might. That might be a lot of fun. But it's reconnecting with things you enjoy for yourself in your new age, right? So if you I love traveling. When I traveled when I was in my 20s, I had no money. I had no money and I would travel. I'm very excited to travel in my 50s with more money. And I'm very excited to be able to travel without needing a row of seats on the airplane and a bungalow for everybody. Those are wonderful trips, but it is so much easier to plan a trip with, one or two people. So it's reconnecting with the things that you love or that you want to explore. Those, I think, are very helpful things. But I think that reawakening and the reclaiming, got to be careful how we phrase that with ourselves, because we don't probably actually want to be 25 again. And we can't.
Our livers don't take it like that anymore.
Oh my gosh. It's so true.
Our multivitamins, so they start failing.
That's so true.
My gosh. Yeah, it's just, it is different. And, I kind of think back to when I left corporate, because I'd been in corporate for so long, I kind of lost my identity a little bit. And I chose to leave and didn't expect that to happen. And the same thing can happen when, you've been in that space of being the mom, the stepmom for all those years. And I guess the question I have for you is, how do you recommend people do that reclaiming? How do they get back to themselves and figuring out what they like to do? I struggled when somebody said, "Who are you?" or "What do you like to do?" I struggled for a while to answer the question. Yeah. And like I said, my identity was tied to my job more, but what do you think?
I think that people have done that. When I left my corporate job to raise kids, I struggled then, right? But then you're so overwhelmed with the small person who needs you all the time that it's a little bit different, because it's an immediate transfer of skills. But that is definitely something that people go through when it's a shift like this. When I took that survey and it said you're a nurturer, and I was like, oh, what? No, I'm not. No one is ever, who is this? And then I began to talk to people about it. Like, no, they are, you do all these things. And I was like, oh, I do all those things, but oh my God, no. And then I started working with somebody who is a coach, and she had me make a list of all the things that I wanted to do. And she turned the list around and showed it to me, and none of the things were mine. They were all people in my family. I made a list of all the trips they wanted to take, all the meals they wanted to eat, all the hobbies they wanted to do, all of the things. And she showed it to me, and I was like, oh, there is a problem here. There is a problem. I've shut this off. And so awareness that you want to reconnect with what you want to do is, I think, a very, very good first piece. And we can do it ourselves. We can do it with a friend. We can do it with a spiritual advisor, a life coach, whoever you like to work with. But it's the process of asking yourself, like, what do I want here? And you don't have to do it right away. You don't have to act on it, but it's reconnecting with what those things might be. Do I want to go skydiving? I actually don't, but maybe you do. And, just connecting with those things and letting it go slowly, because there might be some weird things that pop up that are not really in line with what you want to do, but that's the process of it. And you might think, oh, I want to go out to lunch with all of my friends every single day, but maybe your friends are not actually available for lunch yet. And so it takes some work. And you might put some things on that are not like really possible, but it's the process of connecting with what you want and then taking small baby steps to make it happen. And for me, I call these breadcrumbs. When it's right, when it's something that I actually want, the things line up and it feels good all of the way. So it should not feel like making an appointment for a colonoscopy and dreading every single step. It should be like, when does the office open and when can I get in there and do the next thing? That's a clue that you're on the right step, on the right process.
I love that. It's funny. I just had coffee with somebody I met randomly, I think on the Nextdoor app. Might have been Facebook. I don't know. Every time I meet somebody new, I'm like, let's go have coffee. Gets me out of the house. But, just really talking to her about some similar things. She's had some life changes too. And like she said, I don't even know what I like to do. So I just said, you know what? I'd love for you to go home and just sit down quietly outside, get a cup of tea or whatever you like, and just start journaling, just start writing down and
Just
kind of
start
getting
writing
back
it
to who
down.
you are. Because we do forget.
We do forget. We tamp it down. We get messaging that our values are not important. I mean, our wants are not as important as other people's, which is the thing that is so tricky about this, is that is true for kind of a long time. When you have a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old that is not able to do anything by themselves, you do have to put yourself on the back burner and get them the juice box and make sure they don't die, because toddlers are like actively trying to kill themselves all day long. It's the craziest thing. All day. And so that is, I think I call it the slippery slope. That's how it happens. But then we train ourselves to just do that and put it last. I know a story. This is not my story. It was somebody else, but she was in a counseling session and the counselor asked her what her favorite color was. And she asked her spouse. That's how disconnected she got from the things she liked. So it happens. It happens. And give yourself grace, because when I started asking myself what I wanted to do, nothing came up. Nothing came up. And so it took me a little while before I was like, well, not. And then I will say this, the first thing that bubbled up for me was, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, was the things I didn't want to do. And that was fine.
Yeah, that's a starting place, right? A lot of things we're doing, we're just doing them because we've always done them for someone else.
Right.
And when you realize you don't have to do it anymore, you're like, why am I still doing this?
Which is true. And there's this other sort of kickback kind of thing where people are like, well, why, you could just stop. And it's like, oh, really? Like the family will just starve? Like, do you think that, do you think that I'm doing these things because I push somebody out of the way to do them? No, I do these things because it wasn't getting done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That is awesome. It's so funny. You said skydiving. That was one of the things I had wanted to do when I was younger. And I also was like, oh, but I got a child. If I die, is anybody in my family going to be able to raise it? Like, I don't think that's a good idea. So when he was coming up on his 18th birthday, I was like, so here's the deal. When you turn 18, I'm going skydiving. I've wanted to do it for my whole life. I'm doing it. And he said, can I come with you? Sure.
I was going to say, so I did bungee jumping younger, which is why I know that I don't want to skydive, right? Like, it's not on my list. Like, it's like, if I had to jump out of an airplane, I would, but I know that it's not the thing that I love to do. But all of the kids want to do it. And the 2 oldest have done it. The 2 youngest have not, but they started when they turned 18. It's just been blocked with weather after weather after weather. There's been, when they get together, they try and go. And it's to the point where I was almost like, oh my gosh, am I going to have to like offer to like go and do this so that they get a chance to do it? But then the last one turned 18. I was like, no, you guys can go together. Like, off you go.
Excuse me. That's so funny. Yeah, it was funny. My husband drove us and he said there's nothing worse than watching your wife and your son sign away like a 19-page waiver that basically says, I'm not getting life insurance if you die because you chose to do this reckless activity.
Absolutely. And people love it. People love it.
It's so fun. And I get motion sickness. So I just remember I was motion sick afterwards, which I knew would happen. The good news is they basically push you out of the plane. So it doesn't matter if you lose your nerve. But I remember the harness, when he pulled the parachute, the harness came up and it started kind of choking me a little bit. And so I put my fingers up there to pull it. He started loosening it. I was like, stop what you're doing. Just stop. Baby does not need to fall out of the sky.
Right, exactly. I will give up my breath for the next minute.
Right. I can hold my breath.
That's hilarious.
But it's true, we just forget. So I love that, just thinking about, and if you can't start with what do you like to do or what do you like, start with what you don't like and start eliminating those kinds of things.
And so you do this kind of work with folks, you ask them the questions. When you repeat the questions, or if you have somebody ask you the question, the repetition will bring up the answer. Like, so you just got to keep at it if the first time, and there's some people who say that do it 5 times, ask yourself the question 5 times. I don't know if there's any magic with the number 5 or not, but try it.
It's a good one. I will add 5. I will repeatedly hound somebody till I get an answer, but that's a good one. Just again, because that identity shift, it can be really significant.
It's one of the most famous transitions, the retirement and the empty nest. Those are 2 of the famous life transitions that I used to call that a Red Book moment. Do you remember that magazine, Red Book? The women's magazine I don't know if I even ever read it, but I would stand at the grocery store and see it in the magazine rack, and it would have the headlines. And so I was younger, but these were midlife headlines, and one of them was how to deal with empty nest and, what to do if you're retiring and, these things. And so I call that my Red Book moments.
It's funny. I kind of remember it. And I feel like it was a combination of Cosmo and Good Housekeeping. If those two
but
had
I think
a baby, that was Red Book,
exactly.
But for the
slightly older. I don't even know if that's the right demographic, but when I was 16, that's what I thought it was. So that's why I call this a Red Book moment. So, and now we don't even have magazines anymore. So,
Right. And if we did, where would we store them? Oh my gosh. So one of the things that I know you also do is helping people navigate that step parenting and blended family dynamics.
Yes.
So what are some of the biggest lessons or things that you've learned from working with people through those transitions and going through that yourself?
Oh, goodness. This is like a 6-week. I could go off. I have a lot of information. No. So I was a step parent before I was a parent. And so I married somebody who already had kids. And I went from being a single mid-20s to living with people, living with kids part-time. It was a wild, rapid adjustment. And I went into this situation willingly. It was my choice. I had the confidence that you can only have as a 20-something-year-old person. I was like, I'm nice. They're nice. What could possibly go wrong? And then proceeded to really struggle for a while in many different ways. A lot of privileges in my experience. There were no catastrophic things in my family. There were no personality disorders or addiction or abuse or any of the things that can really rip families apart. But I still struggled. And one of the reasons I struggled is that we talk about societal pressures and conditioning and things like that. The examples of step parents are not present, and those that are there are not complementary. And so even if you try to think of a family construct with a step parent and you want to be a happy step parent, we all grew up with the story of the wicked stepmom. And it's there, it's in your brain, and it works that way. And it is pervasive in that you don't know where to look for help. You don't know who to ask for help. It's very, very tough to figure out who to talk to. And then when you do start to talk to people, a lot of times you end up talking to people who are not really there to help you in your situation. So if you were to talk to a lawyer who specializes in divorce, they're not necessarily lined up to help you be happy in your family. If you're going to talk to a psychiatrist, they're trained to diagnose you, not necessarily give you a formula for being happy in your family. If you're going to talk to a social worker, they're designed to help you find government programs, not help you be happy in your family. And if you want to talk to your friends, if they were step parents, great. But I didn't have any friends that were step parents, so I didn't have that. But also our friends deserve to just be our friends. They don't need us to they don't need us all the time showing up and saying, let me tell you again how I struggled with this. So I got some pretty bad advice that didn't work. And then I just buckled down. I took advice from every place I could get it. My joke used to be that I would have taken advice from the homeless guy outside the grocery store and happily tried it. tried everything I could ever do. Some stuff worked, some stuff didn't. And I slowly found my way into building a family that worked for me. And it was very, very good. And I'm very happy. And that is the number one piece of advice that I like to give people, which is that what I can see now that I was doing when I was struggling is that I was trying to fit myself into the family that existed before I got there. And what changed is when I started working on creating the new family, not like just me, but this is me talking, working on building the family that included me going forward. So it's really a mindset and structural shift, which is, honor. And this is what I tell people: honor and respect everything that came before, the earlier marriages, the children, all of the things, honor and respect and love all of those things. But then focus on building the thing that works for the new family that includes you, which is not a short process, but it is what I think really, really helps. And that's what so I do that. Yes.
That's such great advice. Gosh, I don't want to go into the long story because we don't have enough time for it. But I left a marriage, my first marriage, when I was pregnant. I met my current husband when I was 8 months pregnant. We
There you go.
he had a son who was almost 2 years old when I had my son, and we got custody of him full time when he was 5. There were a lot of just crazy things going on. And he was a different type of child. He was definitely, he had been through a lot of things and a lot of had some emotional things going on, and it was hard. And I really wish I had had someone like you at that time that I could talk to and say, "Hey, how do you do this?" Because
Yeah.
the amount of self-judgment as a stepmom, you're wanting to keep your family together. You want to look, normal, whatever that is.
Yeah. Oh
You
my
want to look
gosh.
like you're not losing your shit every 5 minutes, which I think I was many days. But it was a challenge, and not a lot of people understood. But I would see other families that were blended and they were doing so great. And
Well, or
then,
at least they looked like they were when you saw them.
right. Or you go
Right.
to a family therapist, they're like, "Well, you just need to let him throw his 5-hour tantrum and blah, blah, blah." I was like, "Can I take him to your house to do that? Because I'm not
You know,
emotionally equipped for that."
I call this the hill that I will die on. It took me a long time to do this with therapists, but I ask people now. Like when I am dealing with when I was dealing with step parent stuff, I learned to ask people if they had experience personally, academically, or as a profession, because I did not know, but I was getting a lot of advice from people who had none of those things. So, for example, at one point, and this is advice that is still given today, to step back and let the biological parents parent, right? That is the advice they give a step parent. So, at one point, I had somebody give me the advice that I should physically leave my house when the kids came over to let them have time with their dad. And when I went back to that therapist, who was not our therapist for very long, I was like, this is not going to work, because this is supposed to be my house too. Like, I just don't understand how this is supposed to be working, just getting to be a family. And that was when they revealed that they did not actually have any experience with this. And, so you just can't take it on faith that just because somebody has a very good academic credential, that they have any idea what they're doing in your situation. I call it the hill I might die on. You have to ask.
I love that. And it's so different for every situation too. Like
Yes.
in our situation, mom was fairly absent.
Yes.
And, in other people's situation, mom and dad are able to talk about things and negotiate and have conversations. And, so it's also different. So I love that. And the fact that the work that you do, it lets people understand that we don't have to be perfect. We just have to kind of be doing our
Yeah,
best,
no.
right?
Oh, yes. And your best is what you can do today. It changes from minute to minute.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I went to the gym one day and she would write motivational quotes. And one day it said, "If you only have 10% to give today and that's all you give, you're giving 100%." And I was
And
like, "Oh my
it's,
gosh."
yes, it's
So
so
true.
hard to see that in the moment. But the metaphor I give for that is like when you've got the flu and all you can do is sit in bed and heal. That is 110% of what you've got to give that day. If your life depended on it, you could not do anymore. That is it. That is
Yeah.
all you can do.
Yeah.
And we just heap pressure on ourselves all the time that we should be able to give more, but most of the time we're giving the very best we can. And so is the magic sauce so is everybody else, right? So if you have the mind space to acknowledge that when other people are screwing up all around you, they are also doing the best they can. That's a good way to get through life, because it's harder to judge people when you realize, oh yeah, no, that's not very good, but it is the best you got. I got it.
Right. Well, bless your heart. That's what you got today. That's what we'll take. Yep.
Bless your heart.
Bless your heart. I'm not even a Southern woman, but I know that one.
I am
So,
South, but I'm so far south I have to drive north to get to the South. So,
oh my gosh, that's great. So, about you, one more thing. I know that as I was reading your bio, I noticed that you have completed 7 Ironman races and more than 20 marathons.
that's right.
So, someone with a bit of endurance. How does that mindset really apply to the life changes that you coach people on? And what keeps you going?
So I have grit. I think that I have demonstrated that I have grit. I don't know if you remember that book by Angela Duckworth. I read that book and I went on a campaign through the house that we all needed grit. And my husband literally stomped threw the book on a table and was like, "You do not need any more grit. You have plenty of grit. Like, stop it." So it's a piece of my personality. Like, I love running. For me is a form of self-soothing. And if you drop me off on a deserted desert island, I would get up and walk and run on my own in the morning. So that is just a piece of who I am. And I love endurance sports for myself as a hobby. So that's what drew me to those things. I like taking projects, figuring out how to break them down into small pieces and build them. So you can see that through all the things that I do and figuring out how to get there. One of the things that is a lesson that I took from all of those that I love to teach people. I'm pretty good at starting things. Starting things can be hard, but you can only start where you are. You've got to start with that first step. And the other thing is like resetting and starting again. Everything is a first step, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And so if you think to yourself, and we talked about this, like the reawakening and the resetting in midlife, you can't really reset. All you can do is start again from where you are. And every day that is that. So those are the lessons I took from endurance sports. I'm all done with Ironman races. I've completed all that I'm going to do, but I'm still going to run some more marathons, and we'll see how long that goes.
Amazing. I love it. I will power walk the heck out of a 5K. If somebody tells me I got to run, I don't know. If someone's chasing me with a knife, I'm probably going to turn around and fight back before I run. So good for you.
No
so
shade on power walkers. I have been passed by very fast walkers. Power walkers can fly. The race walkers, they are so fast.
Well, that's so great. Oh my gosh. All right. So tell us a little bit about how we can work with you. If somebody heard something today that really resonated with them and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I have got to have a conversation with Amy. What's the best way for them to reach you or learn from you or connect with you?
So we talked about my step parent coaching, which they can find it. I call it stepparentsuccessschool.com. So that's one place that they can find me. And my favorite project that I'm working on right now that I love to talk about, and it's super exciting, is what I call the Art of Imperfect Adulting, which is my podcast. I bring on guests to talk about choices and changes and decisions they've made in their life and how it has impacted the path of their life. So these are these amazing conversations. They're not from celebrities or influencers who are going to tell us about, the 5-step perfect morning routine that they follow that nobody ever actually follows. These are real people who tell real stories of their life, of something that they did or they decided to do, and then what happened from that. And it's amazing. It's inspirational. It's validational, and it's motivational. And so that is the Art of Imperfect Adulting, which is available on all major podcast players, Apple, Spotify, you name it. And there is a website, imperfectadulting.com.
Excellent. We'll make sure all of those links are included in the show notes so our listeners can connect. They can listen to your fabulous podcast and keep learning from you. Amy, if you were to leave our guests with one bit of advice or a piece of inspiration, what would you share?
Wow. You probably gave me this in advance so I could be prepared, but if I was prepared, I've totally forgotten. The piece of advice that I have posted up in my closet that I look at every day is two things. One is that if it is to be, it's up to me, which is a reminder for me that I have to actually do the work to get the things. And then there is another one that is a reminder, which is you already are all that you seek. And so reminding yourself that everything you're looking for is already present right now in this moment, and just to tune in and be where you are. Because that's all we can do. It sounds like it's a huge project, but it's really about accepting that this is it. This is it, this one moment.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, those are both so powerful. I love that. I really appreciate having you here with us today, Amy, and do look forward to staying connected. Thank you so much for your time and everything that you've shared with our audience today.
Thank you.
If you've ever asked yourself, who am I now? Let Amy's story remind you, you are already all that you seek. Midlife doesn't mean you're fading out. It means you're finally free to ask what you want next. Whether it's a slower season, a creative pivot, or building something totally new, you don't need permission. You just need a plan. And if your bold next act includes leaving corporate to build a business that actually lights you up, I want to invite you to join me inside the Corporate Escape Accelerator. It's my signature 6-month group program where I help you create a real step-by-step escape plan with strategy, structure, and support, so you can stop spinning and start building your freedom business before you quit your day job. Check it out and apply today at corporateescapesherpa.com/corporate-escape-accelerator. That link is long and it will be in the show notes. And if you love this episode, be sure to follow the Gen X Remix, leave us a quick review, and share it with that one midlife friend who's so ready to remember who she is. I'll see you next time. And until then, remember, the next act is yours to write. Take care.